Hello again, fellow podcaster, and welcome back to Pod Theory. As always, I am your host, Jason Cercone, and today we're going to talk about who you should choose to host your podcast. Now, if you're launching a podcast for your personal brand, the answer here is pretty obvious. It's your brand, it's your podcast, therefore you're going to be the host. Now, that said, you don't have to be the only voice. You can have a co-host come on the show with you from time to time, or on every episode. It's totally up to you. I've also seen podcasts that rotate co-hosts to keep the additional voice on the show fresh from episode to episode. But if you're launching a podcast for your company or your brand and you have numerous employees at your disposal, you have a great opportunity to choose a host using a number of different criteria. Now, you still may be thinking about choosing yourself to be the host, but if you're looking to play a more behind-the-scenes role or assume a co-hosting or producer role with your podcast, you'll most likely have some candidates in-house that could step up and fill that seat. Now, here's how you get everyone that you would potentially want to have as your podcast host involved. In the planning stages of your podcast, notify everyone in your company about your plans to launch a podcast and mention that you'll be looking for someone to host the show. This may automatically generate some potential candidates to fill that void. Now, here's some of the criteria that you'll want to look at as you make your choice for a podcast host. First off is personality and charisma. You want to ensure that you're bringing a voice on your show that will stand out, that will add excitement, and will attract listeners to your podcast. Think of all the outgoing people that work in your company. This could make your search for a brand podcast host very quick because you may be thinking of someone right now that you know would be perfect for that role. The second thing to look for is experience. Does your potential host have experience behind the mic? Do they make videos for social media, whether it be for your company and brand or for their own personal accounts? With some fine-tuning, these types of skills will easily translate over to your podcast. Next, do they have good industry and product knowledge? You want your host to have a solid understanding of your brand, your products and services, and what's happening in your industry. Combined with proper preparation for each episode, having a strong knowledge of your brand and industry will ensure that they can facilitate a great conversation with guests and other personalities that you have on the show. Now, another thing you'll want to discover, is your potential guest familiar with podcasts? Now, this may seem like a silly question, but you never know. You want to make sure that your host knows what podcasting is all about. What podcasts do they listen to? If you discover that they don't listen to podcasts, this is a pretty easy fix. Have them start listening to some podcasts. Find a couple successful podcasts in your industry and have them listen to a few episodes. In addition, have them find a podcast or two on something they're truly passionate about. That will keep them invested in that content while they learn more about the podcasting platform and start to get an idea of how they would present as a host on a podcast. Now, once you have your host in place, another resource you can point them towards is episode 2 of Pod Theory, where I share 7 ways to hone your podcast hosting skills. Now, you may discover that you have several candidates under your roof that qualify to host your podcast. That is a great problem to have. For consistency, you should appoint one person as the host. But there's no reason why you can't have anyone else willing to add value to your show be part of the episodes. You can have rotating co-hosts, and in situations where one of your co-hosts has more knowledge on a specific topic, they can lead the conversation in the same manner that your host would. If you're not looking to host your brand podcast yourself, finding the right person to fill that seat is a fun job. Enjoy the process. Do practice episodes with your potential host to get a feel for what will come when the real thing goes live. And make sure that you choose the right voice to represent your brand on your podcast. And that'll bring this episode of Pod Theory to a conclusion. Now, if you're looking for a service to host your podcast that makes things like uploading new episodes and dispersing content to podcast directories easy, I cannot recommend Buzzsprout enough. They've helped over 100,000 podcasters spread their message, and they're ready to help you do the same. If you sign up for Buzzsprout today, you can earn a $20 Amazon gift card. Head to the show notes of this episode and click the link that says, click here to sign up for Buzzsprout and receive a $20 Amazon gift card. Good talk. I'll see you back here tomorrow. This has been Jason Cercone on Pod Theory.